If somebody were to ask you, what is the most important thing to do with your life? What is the single most important thing to do with your life? Would you know how to answer? Somebody say, well, probably love God. And of course, you would be right. That is the first. God made you to know him. You weren't put on this earth just to mark things off your to-do list. You were put on this planet to be loved by God and to learn to love him back to get you ready for eternity. But if somebody asked you, do you know the second most important thing you're supposed to do with your life while you're here on earth? Would you know the answer to that? What is the second most important thing I'm supposed to do with my time while I'm here on this planet? Now, this question was asked by Jesus several times. One of them is in Matthew chapter 22, where a religious teacher came up to Jesus and asked this question. Here on the screen, the Bible says this in Matthew 22. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? In other words, what's the most important thing to get out of this book? If I only get one thing out of this Bible, what's the most important thing? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. So the number one thing I'm supposed to do every day is get to know God a little bit better, learn to love him a little bit more, because he's the one who made me. Then he says, and the second most important thing you're supposed to do with your life, he says it's like it. This is the second thing. The second greatest commandment is love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and all the prophets hang on these two commands. He says, okay, I could summarize the entire Bible for you in 2 sentences. I can give you cliff notes on the Bible. I could summarize what you're supposed to do with your entire life in 2 sentences. This is not something minor. This is the most important thing. Number 1, love God. And number 2, learn to love other people as yourself. Life is all about love. It's not about accomplishments. It's not about being famous. It's not about achievements. It's not about acquisitions. Jesus sums up the 2 most important things in what's called the Great Commandment. The Great Commandment has 2 parts. Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself.